Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to our virtual coffee break, Digital Transformation and the Change Mindset. My name is Doug Stewart, and I'm a Senior Director of Solutions Consulting here at OpenText. And today we'll explore the topic of change as it relates to the digital transformation process, meaning we're really going to focus on the word transformation in this often used phrase. So joining our discussion today is Jeffrey Sage, Managing Partner at Potentia, and Bryan York, Account Executive at OpenText. So welcome, Jeffrey and Bryan. Why don't we kick it off by each of you taking a minute or so to introduce yourselves. And Jeff, would you like to start?
Certainly, thanks. I am the Managing Director of Potentia LLC, which is an independent company that is working in the consulting space right now. I have been involved in transformation for quite some time in my career, both as a consultant and as the executive of a couple of companies that I've worked in. And it's a very interesting transforming term that's been used, and the digital transformation is the current terminology that's being used in the industry. And I've been focusing my attention in that space as an independent, and I've been working with some very large and very small companies, so it's been exciting.
Well, great. And Bryan?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Yeah, so I'm Bryan York. I'm an account executive here at OpenText, and my experience in digital transformation and change is something we work on every day with our clients and customers. Whether it's them reaching out to us just to make a small change or add something into what they do every day, or working with them through large projects and things that we get quite involved on that. So I'm with our business line solutions group here at OpenText, so we cover off a wide range of different products and solutions. So my experience in it is all over the place, and joining in a lot of really good conversations. So it's good to be here.
Well, excellent. Well, it's great to have both of you with us. So with that, let's jump in and get this conversation started. So Bryan, starting with you, when we were brainstorming topics, and in fact, I think it was what led to today's eventual topic was that you mentioned that you make it a priority to always ask your customers two key questions when they're looking at acquiring new technology. So, and those two questions are why change and why now. So it was interesting talking to you about what you've learned about how your customers approach change, what you've learned by asking those questions and how your customers approach change. So could you kind of share some of your insights and just working with actual organizations that are undergoing some transformations?
Yeah. From my perspective, it's a really good foundational place to start when working with our customers. It's just, I would love to say it's a phrase or questions that I coined or came up with myself, but I've worked with some really good sales leaders over the years that it's been something that they always recommended me to go talk to my customers about, and the concept of why are they coming to us with either a question or wanting to look at a new solution, and totally understanding that the background as to why they want to change and why they want to do it right now. So like I said, it's a foundational thing. So a lot of times we get involved in conversations, like I said, can be pretty small. Hey, we want to do this one thing, and sometimes it doesn't make sense to dive into the real deep need of it. But other times there's a big change that's happening, and the customers are bringing to us, a large, I don't want to say problem, but maybe a challenge that they're having, and helping them determine where that challenge came from and why they feel they need to make a change from that challenge has been something that's been very important in helping them go the direction that'll actually progress them. I don't know how far you want me to dive into, the nuances of, how far you get down the path and working with a customer if that's not found yet. But when you get engaged with them and working through, getting the background as to why we're here, why we're having this conversation, it leads you to that path of, why they may want to do it now, right? And a lot of times they don't know. So to start with that type of, not necessarily a direct question, but kind of leading down that path of, why are we here? What do you really need to do? It helps them fully understand, the reason why they're talking to you, and helps me understand the direction we need to take them to in order to help them get to where they really want to get to.
Well, I'm curious, what percentage of the customers that you work with would you say have good answers kind of out of the box or out of the gate when you start talking to them to those questions?
At face value, You would think that they all do. That first conversation, they've got a clear understanding of what they want from you, what they feel they need. They've done, consumers and customers are very smart today. They do a lot of research before even talking to us now. Everything's available online. But when you really get into it, that's where you kind of get to more of that, like I'd say maybe a 50-50, where they really understand or they really don't know what they want to do. In a lot of cases, it's, hey, somebody in the line of business came to me and said, we need to do this. Okay, that's awesome. You want to do that, but why do you want to do it? Well, they said they want to do it. Okay, well, let's dig that a little deeper. What do you actually want to get out of this? Well, that's a good question. Let's get other people involved and have that deeper conversation. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get there because, there can be some resistance. But other times, most are very interested in saying, oh yeah, why are we here? Let's make sure we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, interesting. Well, so Jeff, in terms of kind of that organizational change that Bryan just mentioned, it seems like it's impossible to start talking to an organization about that without talking about change management, which sounds like a very formal term. But what does change management mean in the context of digital transformation from your experience? And also, kind of a related question: why is change management important to the transformation process?
Well, change management in the context of digital transformation these days is more on how do you get people to use the new technologies that the digital technologies that are coming into play. With the COVID situation, a lot of companies are looking at transforming faster, getting more technology in quicker to automate a lot of manual operations. And if you look at the research, the skill level of people that are going to be needed in the future is going to be very high, but the resource availability is going to be very low. So companies are concerned about the fact that roles are going to change and they need more technology to automate what they used to do. So the change management piece is real important because of the changing in the definition of those roles. Some of the change management requests that I've seen come about are based on the fact that a new technology has been put into the business very quickly, and now I got to go back and I got to change how the people work so that they use this new technology. So there's a lot of conflict between what am I supposed to do now? I got this new technology that's come in, and I got to do something different. So they need some help in doing that. And the context in which I talk to people on is you need to take a quick look at your organization first before you put the technology in, because it'll come in a lot easier and a lot faster and a lot smoother. And I've seen that in many cases, not just now, but in the past. So that's that's how change management is being looked at these days and how it's being defined.
Got it. And Bryan, kind of stemming off of what Jeff just said, how do your customers actually manage the change that kind of you're help driving for them by selling them new technology? But what really goes on, like Jeff was saying, how do you get the people to, how do you impact that change in the workforce, or how do the customers do it?
Yeah, so we work with them pretty closely to help them understand what change is actually needed. From their perspective, they're coming into this potentially having never tackled a project like this or made a change like this. But something that I feel a value that we bring is expertise, and having done this a few different times with other customers in a similar avenue, and helping them see where some of those gaps are from the change perspective. Not necessarily just, hey, we have this problem, we need to fix it, here's the solution to fix it. But as Jeff said, it's getting the user adoption after the fact, or the engagement of your employees to actually take advantage of the change. Hopefully you're doing it for a good reason, which is why we find out why you're doing it and work with you on that process of doing it for a purpose, and then getting through to the actual use of that change, whether it's a new solution or taking a process that was very manual before and now having a chance to automate it, kind of in line with what Jeff was saying there. How do we then get the group to buy in to actually take advantage of the technology that's being provided to them? So some ways that we would do that, we can provide resources, or I'm just trying to think of one example that I had with a customer where their change management organization, they had a whole organization focused on this, and they were asking us of things that I had never even thought of before, like different ways that they can put email communications together to explain to their users of, this is the new product, this is how it works. So they wanted information from us to be able to put into that communication to say, hey, here's something new that's out there, take advantage of it. But other pieces have come right down to trying to pair it together with, here's that old manual process you did, here's all that paperwork you used to do, here's the workflow that used to take place in a manual way, here's the way that it has changed, so that way they understand what the change is, and then sharing the benefit with them of that, and then they put it out to their user base. Because really, again, the whole impetus of this is to do it for a reason, and if you don't get the value out of the whole process investment, what's the point in doing it? So having an understanding of why, again, not to belabor that, is going to really come down to if the people are actually going to use it in the end, so you get actual value out of it.
Right. Good. And you kind of touch on something, which is, do you find that people take a very disciplined approach, and Jeff, directed at you as well, when they say they have that process that they want to automate? I mean, that's a classic line we hear from people. I want to automate this process because it's so manual. And then what they do is they just automate all those manual steps, but they haven't really tweaked it or tried to perfect it. Bryan, do you find, and Jeff, do you find that your customers and clients that you work with have that understanding too, that this is a great opportunity to go in and actually do some process, efficiency work as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of activities that people do in the business now when you're talking about a disruptive change and changing the organization that have traditionally been wasteful in a way, or there's old habits that people have in the organization, and when they put in technology to make things go faster, they're taking those old habits and automating those and making them go faster, instead of taking a look and eliminating some of those. When you put in a new disruptive technology, you're changing the way people work, and you want to make sure that it's as efficient as possible, because like I said before, the number of resources available is going to decrease, and people's roles are changing. It's not that you're going to automate everything and get rid of people. The roles are going to change, and we've seen that in major changes throughout the decades, that we're not really eliminating a lot of people. We're just changing their roles. They're now learning new skills, and we do that very well as time goes on. So when you're talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning and robotic process automation and all those new technologies coming in, they have a place, and people are going to have to learn how to use those differently. It's not like you're eliminating somebody's job. You're automating what they used to do, and you're now educating them on how to use the new technologies, which is very important.
Yeah, and Doug, from my perspective, it all depends. If the how do I say this? Yeah, whether there's resistance to it or what they actually do with the change. When you talked about automating processes as an example, it depends on how effective it is in the end, depending on how much the customer wants to embrace it. I find every customer goes into it with really good intentions, and we go into it with good intentions too, to support the process. And there's some cases, just to kind of put a story to it, where you can work with a customer and you find an awesome solution, you tick all the boxes off, and where they want to get to, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, they're getting there. You're going through the project, but as you finally go through the project, because there's different stakeholders at place in different places, you can find that you start to limit your progress towards the end if there's not if they're not embracing the actual change. So like Jeff said, you have all these manual processes, you automate them and they go faster. It may not be making anything more efficient, except for you're getting some speed with some automation to it. So when I get back to the customer's ability to embrace the change and what they want to do with this and the value to get out of it, sometimes you get kind of caught in, well, this is the way we've done our business for this amount of time. This is the process that we've always had. We've always had this workflow and it's always worked this way. And we want to keep that. That works. Okay, that's great. But if we're putting the solution in, there could be some value in taking a look at it a little bit differently. So, evaluating that process and understanding, is this actually the most efficient way to do it? And that's sometimes where you get sort of that give and take. You can get an awesome solution in place. You could have sped things up, but sometimes if you don't fully embrace that change or put the right pieces in place or get buy-in from all the right stakeholders, sometimes you can still be stuck with some of that lingering stuff that brought you to the change in the first place.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, when you're looking at new technologies and you're looking at these disruptive technologies, most of the technologies that are out there satisfy the core business, the core operations of your business. I mean, they're common across all businesses. So when you're going out there to select technologies, you don't need to list all these requirements for the common processes that you go through. What you really need to do is spend a little time and understand what's unique about your business. What are the key requirements or what are the unique requirements about your business that's going to catapult you ahead? And that's what you need to use to evaluate technology with. If you get all this laundry list of stuff together and go out and review all this stuff, you lose sight of that. And I did a project. I'll just give you a quick little example. I did a project one time where the company came up with 1,400 requirements, and 1,200 of those were common across all the systems they were looking at. But there were 208, and I remember the exact number, there were 208 that were unique to that business. And using those unique requirements ended up on a solution that was stellar. And they didn't expect to find that. But focusing on those key requirements and the uniqueness of your business really puts you ahead, because then the rest of the business comes along. Then the change is a lot easier because you're doing exactly what's unique within your business. And I see a lot of companies that don't do that.
Yeah, great point. Great point.
Doug, before we go on, just a question on that, Jeff. So when you're working with customers and they have, they've developed this matrix of requirements, right? We're looking at it from sort of that feature function perspective of what software can do for me, right? Do you ever find that you get to that 208, that nice niche of what's really going to be good for them? Do you ever find that rolls back into, how does this actually apply to our business process, software aside? So let's take the technology, just throw it out the window. How are these 208 things relating to how we do business today? And are there any efficiencies there? Does it ever kind of trigger that type of conversation?
Well, those 208 requirements came out of looking at the business processes in the company. We looked at the business process and we're collecting all these requirements, but there are some unique things that appeared as we're doing that. And it made them more lean. It made it more efficient. It really defined what the new roles were going to be and how the operation was going to run. So it goes back to that process piece of it that you had mentioned. And I'm not talking about diagramming everything that you've got, because you can get lost in that for sure. But it's looking at the core, at the uniqueness of your business again, and defining the requirements from there.
Yeah, I like that, Jeff, because that could definitely, looking for the unique requirements probably gets you out of that analysis paralysis that you just referenced, like getting so lost in all the weeds and not knowing what the next step is. Excellent. Well, actually, believe it or not, we are almost up at time. So any final comments? Starting with you, Bryan, I guess.
Yeah, nothing beyond what we've talked about today. If there's one takeaway from today, it's, if you're diving into a project or if you're taking a look at something new, try and have a good background as to why you're actually looking at it. I know personally there's a new app that comes out on my phone, or if there's some new service or some new product out there, I'm like, ooh, that's nice and shiny, I need to go get that. But when you really peel back the layers, do I need that, or why do I want that, or how will that make my life actually better? Those are some questions to ask, because when we get engaged, hopefully we're asking those questions too, and helping you get there so that you get the best value out of any type of change that you're actually going to be implementing down the road.
Yeah, the one final thing I would mention is that a lot of times the disruptive technologies are coming in very, very fast, and people say we don't have time to look at the operation. We just need to get this technology in now. And what you really find out is if you step back for a minute and look at that core functional area within your business, it can go in a lot faster, because you got a very directed strategy on where to put it.
Yeah, it seems slower, but it's actually faster in the end.
It is. It is.
For sure.
The old planning rule pays
Right.
off. Well, with that, I want to thank the two of you for participating in today and sharing your thoughts. You know, this was a great discussion, short but great, on kind of the topic of change in the digital transformation. So, you know, I definitely liked, you know, the combo that we had here. You know, Bryan's experience and Sharon with Jeff's experience definitely complemented each other, but also kind of gave us a more 360-degree view of the process. So thank you again for your insights, and to our audience, thank you for listening to the discussion. If you have any follow-up questions, you can see our contact information is listed here. Feel free to reach out to any of us. And thank you everyone for joining us today, and a special thanks to Jeffrey and Bryan for sharing their expertise with us. So with that, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you at the next virtual coffee break.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.